The prairie wind carried the faint scent of hay and dust as the sun dipped behind the Colorado hills. Eli Carter, a grizzled cowboy in his late 40s with silver threading through his beard and sorrow lining his eyes, finished mucking out the last of the horse stalls. His days were long, his conversations few, and his nights lonelier than any man should endure. Once, this ranch had known music, laughter, and warm apple pie cooling on the windowsill. But all of that had gone with Lila, his beloved wife, who'd fought cancer bravely but left this world 5 years too soon. Since then, Eli had lived in quiet routine, surviving more than living. He rose before the sun, fed the animals, mended the fences, and spoke mostly to his horses. In the evenings, he sat on the creaky porch swing with a cup of coffee and Lila's old shawl over his knees, pretending the cold didn't bother him. He had accepted loneliness like an old scar, until the day fate brought Claire into his life. That late October evening, as orange twilight bathed the fields, Eli saw something out of place beyond the northern fence, a flicker of movement, a small slumped form at the edge of his land. He squinted. Something was tied to the fence. No, someone. Dropping the saddle he was carrying, he took off in long strides. As he neared, horror filled his chest. An unconscious teenage girl, tied crudely with rope. Her skin was scratched, wrists chafed raw, cheeks bruised, and lips cracked from thirst. "Dear Lord," Eli whispered, falling to his knees. "Miss? Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open. Startled. Afraid. But then softened when she saw Eli's weathered face. "My dad," she croaked. "He said I was worthless. Said I was dead weight." Eli's hands trembled as he pulled out his pocketknife and cut her free. She collapsed into his arms like a broken bird. He wrapped her in his jacket and carried her back home like she was made of glass. Back at the ranch house, he laid her gently on the couch and brought her soup, water, and a soft quilt from the cedar chest. She barely whispered her name, Claire. No last name. No more words. Just a heavy silence and pain that filled the room. For days, she slept. When awake, she flinched at every sound. Eli didn't ask questions. He cooked simple meals and left them outside her door. He turned the hallway light on at night so she wouldn't feel afraid. When she cried in her sleep, he sat outside the door, waiting in case she needed him. Slowly, like a rose blooming after a frost, Claire began to thaw. She whispered, "Thank you," one morning. The next day, she helped gather eggs. A week later, she giggled when the goat nibbled her braid. The sound was like sunlight through storm clouds. One afternoon, Eli found her brushing Sienna, his oldest mare. Claire spoke to the horse softly, whispering secrets and wiping away her own tears into the animal's mane. Sienna nuzzled her in return. Eli stood watching, heart aching. "You've got a gift with them," he said. Claire looked up shyly. "I used to dream of working with animals. But dreams don't survive where I came from." Eli smiled gently. "They do here." As winter settled in, the ranch became a cocoon of healing. Claire cleaned the barns, mended chicken coops, and learned how to ride. Eli taught her how to hold the reins, how to treat saddle sores, and how to know when a horse was scared. In return, Claire made the old ranch come alive again. She hung Christmas lights, sang while doing dishes, and even burned cookies that Eli swore were perfectly edible. One snowy evening, by the fireplace, she finally told him everything. "My mother died when I was 10. My dad changed. He started drinking, blaming me for everything. Said I looked like her. Every bruise, every insult. I started to believe it." Eli leaned forward. "You didn't deserve any of that. None of it." Her lips quivered. "He used to say no one would ever want me. That I'd never be loved." Tears welled up in Eli's eyes. "He was wrong. So wrong. You are worthy. And you are loved. Right here. She cried then, clinging to him like a daughter who had finally found her father. The seasons turned. In spring, wildflowers bloomed across the fields. Claire enrolled in online GED classes, using a second-hand laptop Eli surprised her with. She studied on the porch, sometimes dozing off beside Sienna. Her confidence grew, her laughter became louder, and her nightmares less frequent. But the past came knocking. One hot afternoon, Sheriff Dobbs arrived with dust on his boots and concern in his eyes. "There's a man in Clayton asking questions. Says his daughter ran off. Says she was kidnapped." Eli's jaw clenched. Claire froze behind the curtain. "I told him," the sheriff said, "that if he comes near this place, we'll have trouble. But I thought you should know." Eli nodded. "Thanks, Dobbs. You did right." As the cruiser drove off, Claire whispered, "Why are you doing all this for me?" Eli turned to her, eyes gentle. "Because when life gave me pain, someone stayed by my side. I'm just passing that kindness forward." She hugged him tightly. "I never had a dad before. Not a real one. You've got one now." Time passed. Claire earned her GED with honors and was accepted into a veterinary assistant program. She taught riding lessons to neighbor kids and cared for orphan calves with a tenderness that amazed Eli. As her confidence blossomed, so did her dreams. She began saving money from part-time vet clinic work. In the evenings, she and Eli would sit under the stars, sipping lemonade, talking about the future. She spoke of opening an animal shelter one day, a place where abused and abandoned animals would find love and a home. She started visiting local schools to talk about animal care, inspiring young girls who had also been overlooked or mistreated. Her courage, once buried deep under years of trauma, had become her beacon. Then came the second anniversary of the night she arrived. Claire brought out a gift wrapped in brown paper. Inside, Eli found a hand-carved wooden box. On the lid, burned into the wood, were the words, "You didn't just save me. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself." Inside the box was a photo, the two of them in front of the barn, Claire leaning her head on his shoulder, both smiling like they belonged. "I love you, Pops," she said, her voice cracking. Eli swallowed hard, eyes misty. "And I love you, Pumpkin." Later that evening, a neighbor named Marlene dropped by with pies and an old album of ranch photos. Eli, Claire, and Marlene sat by the fire, flipping through pictures of cattle drives, barn dances, and snow-covered fences. Laughter filled the room like music. Before bed, Claire peeked in on Sienna and whispered into her ear, "You saved me too, girl." In the months that followed, Eli and Claire opened a small rescue barn behind the ranch for abandoned animals. People from nearby towns began donating supplies and bringing in strays. The place became a beacon of hope, just like the cowboy who had once lived in silence. Under the wide Colorado sky, the lonely cowboy who once lived with ghosts had found his reason to live again. And the girl who had been left tied to a fence now stood tall, free, and fiercely loved. Because sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness to turn broken lives into beautiful stories.